What up, everyone? I hope everyone is having a good night, and I want to go ahead and give my review on Andrew Cancio knocking out Alberto Machado in their rematch. Just happened less than 2 hours ago on the Zone. Great fight, short fight. If you want to go ahead and catch the replay, leaving a link down below in the description. You can go ahead and get the Zone. Great action for $19.99 a month, or if you're that hardcore boxing fan, then I do recommend the yearly plan, which is $99.99 for the year. But it's a great deal just because you're getting fights like this plus a lot of action every month. So check it out. Let me know what you guys think, and definitely check out that replay, or at least check out the highlights there on the Zone's YouTube channel. But I want to go ahead and give my thoughts on this fight, guys. And it was exciting coming into this fight. The guy I was rooting for, the guy I was hoping would win was, of course, Andrew Cancio. Why? Because I think for anyone that has been listening to the stuff I put out here on YouTube, is that I do have a soft spot for the underdog. Cancio coming into that first fight was clearly the underdog, and I'm gonna be frank with you guys. I didn't know about Cancio before the first Machado fight. I had heard about Machado previously before that fight, but I knew a little bit more about him. At least I had heard his name. I had heard rumblings about him. But on paper, when I first saw that it was gonna happen on the Zone, just looking at it by paper, by appearance, I said, oh, Machado's supposed to win this one. And I started to get a little bit more knowledge about Cancio, his background, just a little bit. It wasn't too extensive, but I knew that he was the underdog, and I was like, man, it wouldn't be such a bad thing if the underdog won here. I don't want to focus too much on that first fight, but it was an upset victory for Andrew Cancio, who scored a fourth round victory. It came by way of knockout in the fourth, and he upset the heavily favored Machado and dethroned him and took away the WBA regular crown. And so now Cancio, coming into this rematch now, was coming in as the WBA super featherweight champion. And again, even though he is, as far as the promotion of this goes, Cancio is the A side because he's listed first. He's being given the respect that he deserves as the champion. But there was still some people out there that thought that the first fight was a fluke. One of the things I really didn't like was the fact that Machado himself came out, and maybe this is true. Don't get me wrong. Maybe this is really a factor in this. But I remember Machado came out after the first fight, immediately after the loss, said that the weight was too much for him. It was too hard to drain down to that weight, to super featherweight. And he was saying that he had a hard time cutting weight. And so that was automatically an excuse that he went with. And of course, a lot of people thought that the fight was a fluke. For whatever reasons, maybe Machado overlooked Cancio. But not a lot of people bought into the hype or thought that Cancio legitimately beat Machado, even though he did beat him, convincingly. But again, there was that doubt there by some people, some fans there. So the rematch was a big stage for Cancio to prove everyone wrong. It was his moment to prove the naysayers wrong, even though he really doesn't have to prove anyone wrong, because if you look at his backstory, if you look at everything Cancio has gone through, he's achieved great heights right now. He's got a championship with him right now. Granted, it's I know it's the WBA regular version. I know that technically the super champion is technically the world champion. But this is something where if you look at his story and where he's come from, you can really appreciate and admire where Cancio is. And if you want to know more about Cancio, then I truly recommend everyone here that's listening to this to go ahead and check out his interview on Teddy Atlas's The Fight podcast. It's one of the first interviews that Teddy Atlas did on his new podcast. And Cancio goes deep into his past, deep into the person that he is, his daily life, and his struggles in boxing. How at some point he had even quit boxing after he had lost to Joseph Jojo Diaz back in 2016. There was a time there where Cancio gave up on boxing and he didn't want to know anything about boxing. And he came back. And what happened was that he made a comeback, and this was the fight with Jojo Diaz, which he lost by TKO, was in 2016. He was gone for almost 2 years, making that comeback in 2018. And he won that fight, won another one, and then it was the first fight with Alberto Machado. And it was for the WBA crown. And he won. He won an upset, the heavily favored fighter. And so, if you want to know more about his struggles and where Andrew Cancio came from, the type of person he is, the type of fighter he is, then I would recommend you go and watch that podcast interview on The Fight, which is Teddy Atlas's podcast. You can watch it on any, podcast platform and also watch it on YouTube. But Cancio versus Machado 2 was a fight that had a lot of things. They had a lot to win and lose from this fight. For both fighters, Machado was looking to reclaim his championship, reclaim the momentum he had lost. Some people also believe that, Machado was probably exposed. Machado wasn't that good. Of course, all that criticism that comes when you lose to a fighter that you're not supposed to lose to. So he was in this fight to reclaim that, to reclaim his position, that even though he was still high up there, even though he could have taken another fight, but he wanted the rematch because he wanted to go ahead and prove people wrong. He wanted to reclaim his status and championship and one of the best rising stars in the sport today. Cancio, too, had a lot to prove, and that was that the first fight was not a fluke, and that he was the real deal, that he was a real threat, and that first victory over Machado wasn't because Machado overlooked him, wasn't because Machado drained down. Look, Machado accepted the rematch, and he took it at the same weight. You can't fault Cancio if Machado is truly having a hard time making weight, because Machado agreed to the rematch at the same weight. So that excuse goes straight out the window the moment that he signed the contract for a rematch at the same weight. Would have been a different story had he accepted a rematch, but at a higher weight, at a weight that maybe for him is more comfortable. But like I said, I think that excuse went out the window the moment that he signed on to fight Cancio again at the same weight. And so the rematch came about, and like I said, a lot to prove for both fighters. And Cancio in the first round seems to be getting into the groove of things, and personally I felt like it was a very close round. Felt like it could have gone either way as far as the scorecards go. I did see Machado landing some clean shots there. Looked like he did look a little bit better than he did in that first fight. And he busted up. I don't know how Cancio got busted open, but Cancio had a big cut over his left eye that had a lot of blood, and I for a moment thought that it was gonna completely alter the way of the fight. I thought that it was gonna really change things up and make things lean towards Machado's favor. So, but the first round ended, and in the second round, Cancio started to pick it up. And for me personally, I feel like he has Machado's number. I think that he has Machado figured out. And one thing also that I want to add in there is the fact that someone commented on the Instagram Torres Boxing, and that's that there's a good chance that Machado was broken in that first fight. That, in other words, Cancio broke Machado, took his will, and the moment that Machado started to feel the heat, the moment that he started to feel the pressure from Cancio, he didn't want to keep going, because Cancio, even though he was taking some clean shots there in the first round too, and even in the second round, but he was relentless in his approach. Even though he had a cut over his left eye, he kept on coming. He kept on fighting. He didn't stop, and he stayed true to the game plan and went for the body. He was going to the body. He's the shorter fighter, has a shorter reach. It's not a drastic reach difference, but he stuck to the body because it's what gave him success in that first fight, and it gave him success in the second fight. He was landing some good shots to the body. From time to time, he did land some solid uppercuts on Machado, some solid rights, so he was landing some good headshots. But I think that his bread and butter in this fight against Machado was the body. That's where he was having a lot more success, and that's what eventually brought the end in the second round, when he scored a vicious left hook to Machado's body that sent the former champion onto one knee, and the referee started the count, but the former champion, Alberto Machado, would not make it back up on time. He tried to make it up on the 10 count, but by then it was over. It just wasn't on time, and you could see by his body language that he just didn't want to continue. And just to mention real quick from the first round, even though the first 2 minutes or so were really very close competitive minutes, but in that last minute, that last closing minute of round one, I have to mention that Cancio had Machado hurt. Machado looked out of it. He looked dazed. His legs looked wobbly. And, thankfully that bell saved him on that round. But the second round was when the end did come, and that's when Cancio scored a vicious left hook to the body that sent Machado down to one knee, and Machado did not want to continue, and the ref waved it off, and Cancio retains the belt. He is still the WBA champion. He retains that super featherweight crown and is now looking at bigger future fights now. Machado takes another step back in his career now that he's lost back-to-back fights with Cancio, and Cancio's riding high now, and the sky is the limit for him. What's next for Andrew El Chango Cancio, who scores another big win against the same heavily favored fighter, Alberto Machado, and has a successful first title defense? Great stuff from Cancio. The Cinderella story continues. He continues to impress. He continues to inspire because of the backstory. Like I said, go ahead and watch that interview with Teddy Atlas, and just know that Cancio's the real deal. This man still has a full-time construction job. They asked him, "Are you going to be at work on Monday?" He said, "Yes, I'm going to be there on Monday." So this guy's the true inspiration. This guy's the real deal. And the success that he's gotten, the achievements that he's reached this, to this day right now, kind of sounded like Deontay Wilder there. But the achievements that he's reached, he's earned them. And I think that's great. I think this is a great story that boxing fans, the casual viewer, should check out, because Cancio is an inspiration, and it's just excited to see him score another big win in his career. So now, of course, I'll probably make another video talking about a potential future fight, maybe with Jojo Diaz, a rematch from their first fight in 2016. Things could go very different, just because Cancio is riding high in a 4-fight win streak. Is coming off of 2 back-to-back wins over Alberto Machado. Has a championship now around his waist, and so he's got a lot of things going for him right now. So I do think that a rematch with Jojo Diaz, another fight, could be very different, or at least be more competitive than the first one. But like I said, I feel like that's more that's a close fight. That's why I'm not gonna say that Cancio has it in the bag. But I think personally, just to be honest, I would favor Cancio in the rematch. Why? Because he's riding high right now. He's got a lot of things going for him. I think he's improved. Jojo Diaz did lose once already since that meeting. And I think it's going to be an exciting fight if they do go ahead and make it again. But guys, that's it for now. Go ahead and let me know what you thought about the fight on the comment section. Remember to go ahead and give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. And make sure you go ahead and visit TorresBoxing.com, guys. Till next time, God bless you and have a great rest of your night.